While people are still joining, I will talk in general about this series. This will be recurrent webinar where we will be sharing news and our findings about the generative AI in software testing and how it can help and enhance abilities for QA, QA testers, QA automation engineers, and software engineers. So we will be talking about different interesting features every month, whatever had been released. And we will be talking about the generic things, I guess, every time for people who are not there. And of course, the recording will be shared. So somebody raise the hand, please go ahead and type your question in the chat. Happy to answer. All right, let's start. So first of all, we will be doing things in the context of TestRigor. TestRigor is AI agent for software testing for web mobile application and native desktop applications, as well as APIs, two-factor authentications, mail, and so on and so forth. So we help people to scale their QA. So why is that and how exactly we do that? I'll talk about it and I'll show some examples today. And then I'll talk about a couple of interesting features that I have prepared for this webinar. First of all, where challenges are coming from with automation. So we have seen examples. One of the example would be ADT. I can touch on it in a second. Where people drowning in QA automation. In fact, only around 30% of end-to-end test cases today are automated. 70% are executed manually still, because people just drown in automation. The amount of maintenance, the amount of maintenance we need to do for their automation is so huge that basically it's all of their time not allowing them to be able to automate more. And the main reason, there are multiple reasons for that, of course, but the main reason for that is reliance on details of implementation. Anything that is not done from end user's perspective, that is not visible to your end users, are details of implementation. And then basically when you do that, what happens is that you de facto writing a test how engineers wrote the code yesterday, as opposed to how it should function from end user's perspective in general, regardless of how it is implemented yesterday or day before yesterday. Getting back to it. So once again, the problem, this huge amount of test maintenance is because like the traditional frameworks like Selenium and Appium basically are built the way where you use details of implementation when you write the tests. If you do that, what it means is that you're testing how engineers wrote it yesterday as opposed to how it should function from end user's perspective. And uh, this is, it sounds maybe simple, but it is huge. It is a huge problem. Not everyone is realizing that how big it is. On average, from our experience, talking to our customers and doing surveys and talking to Gartner and Forrester, the QA automation engineer would be working full time on just maintenance, maintaining around 350 end-to-end tests on average. Of course, it varies dramatically. It could be significantly more in some cases, especially if the tests are shorter, or could be significantly less in case if these systems are not under your control, like Salesforce, ServiceNow, and such, where they change their rendering um, uh, pretty often and breaking all of your tests. So, but the average is around 350 tests. And at 350 tests, the engineers will cap out and basically will do the maintenance only. Why is that? Why it is so bad is what people don't notice is disproportionate huge overhead on how much effort you need to do to adapt to the minute changes from engineering, where engineers might not even notice they did it. For example, engineers might not notice that they just refactored and took them maybe 1 minute or seconds to add a div somewhere in the middle of their HTML structure, which might have broken multiple tests. Now the problem is not just that it breaks the test. First of all, you run the tests and you see that tests are broken. So engineers need to go in, key engineers need to go in and find out what happened, right? So you need to run the system, go through the steps, figure out, okay, it's actually a bug, or if it's just change in the locator. You do not know until you actually reproduce it and see what's going on. Once you did it, you need to figure out, okay, so we now know that yes, this is just a locator change. What is a new locator? You find the new locator, you update your code, and then basically you push it for code review, go through the whole SDLC process to update the tests and then rerun them and so on and so forth. So overhead is gigantic compared to people in engineering might not even notice that they accidentally might have broken a lot of tests. Another extreme example would be changing a library that renders the tables that used to render them with TRCDs tables, and then a second version now renders it using divs. So basically, it will most probably break all of the tests, literally. So, and that gigantic overhead, disproportionately gigantic overhead, this is what makes QA engineers, instead of building new tests, continuously fix existing tests. And if you're working for it's actually pretty frustrating for your customers, right? So if you're working for a system integrator, like it could be actual customers. If you are working for your own product company, your customers are engineering team basically and product management team, and they might be frustrated, like, hey, how is it possible that yesterday we were building, like hundreds of tests per like month or per year, And today we can't do anything. We're barely building one or two. What happened? The whole team is still there, but they are underperforming. And that's the problem is exactly that, test maintenance. So the key thing to be able to scale is to solve that problem with test maintenance. If you significantly reduce or eliminate test maintenance, then you will be able to continue your performance and achieve your QA automation goals. That's the key. Not basically get stuck in test maintenance. How does specifically testRigor achieves that is we do not use details of implementation. You can explain things purely from end user's perspective, and testRigor is human emulator, quote unquote, in a sense that it does things exactly how you would do it manually, as opposed to dealing with details of implementation. So it emulates a human behavior than executing test cases, and this is what helps people to scale. The good example would be IDT, and um, well, they basically introduced QA automation. First year, we jumped to from 0 to 30% QA automation, and then they got stuck at around 34, 33% for year 2 and 3 because they just couldn't, the amount of functionality kept growing, but they couldn't maintain the speed with which they build new test cases because they had so much overhead on test maintenance. And once we switched to testRigor, and yes, you can convert your Selenium test to testRigor, we were able to rebuild their tests to 91% in under 9 months. All right. So not only that, also testRigor is not just a way to write in plain English. It's not just plain English. It is also plain text. There is no hidden stuff behind it. It's literally plain text. You write it as is and testRigor executed. What does it mean? It means that it enables you to do true BDD, where you can build the test cases, executable test cases, or you can call them executable specifications before engineers write the code. So in this way, instead of playing catch up and post factum try to catch up with what engineers have done, you can basically do other way around and force engineers to play catch up. So moreover, if you do that, in testRigor, you can generate test cases based on specifications, which you then will need most probably to update to make sure they fail properly. But you can build the executable specifications before code is released. That because the testing code itself is plain English, product managers can review those. And because they are executable, it will force engineers to make sure that whatever they deliver, number one, does match what product managers actually want. And number two, has less issues, which you might find in this stage, which usually people find in the stages later on, like QA automation and branch testing and so on and so forth for review. So much so that there was a study with BNP Paribas bank. It's one of the largest banks where they saved on average 35% of engineering time by following this process. So you will basically give everyone really good time and give everyone a favor by doing that. Engineers will be happy that uh, there is less rework, less misunderstanding. If they can focus on just building code. QA automation will be happy because hey, the no longer frustrating catch-up games. You can uh, build the executable specifications. Product managers will be happy because their specifications are actually implemented properly and they can review what is being tested. Big deal. All right. So let's do some examples. So I'll create a simple uh, test here. So testRigor uses a lot of generative AI features, and I will enable vision in here, and we will write the description. Okay, so description is pretty important if you plan to use any AI features whatsoever, because it gives AI the context. What is this all about? All right. So this is the test suite, and we're asking it based on this description, generate some test cases. That might not necessarily be that an interesting feature on its own. You might not do that. But there you go. This makes sense to me as a test case. Let's click add and build. If you don't like it, you can update it or say, I don't want it in the first place. So based on this description, which the process as prompt, TestRigor system will go ahead and step by step will build the test case. Now, remember I was showing you this process where you can build test cases based on the specification before engineers write the code, where is the um, there is a button for it with generate test cases based on feature description. You can click on that and say, hey, and let's emulate what it would be if you were to get a specification from engineers. It could be something like, as a user, I can use top search bar to find products like Kindle. So, and then we say, hey, you know what? I want free test cases for that, not just one. And then you click generate. And yes, if you have seen, there is the way to upload files. That's for wireframes, charts, diagrams, and anything else the product managers would provide alongside the description. So you can use all of that and multiple. Here is the suggested test cases. Sure, looks good. We can kick that off. And basically it will build some steps and then you can modify the steps going forward. All right. So two things that I would love to show today as the features for TestRigor would be AI-based validations and the import from TestRail. The AI-based validations are extremely important if you want to validate AI features, specifically to automate validation of AI features for your product. Because think about it, if you're talking about things like chat, if this chat is backed by, let's say, your company build a chat, might not be a good example, it's probably something else for your product, but it does matter. So I'll give an example of chat. Let's say chat is AI based. And if it is AI based, that means that the responses change ever so slightly from question to question for the same exact question, basically every time you would do it, which makes it very hard to automate. As a human, you can look into a response and see, yeah, this does this and that, but how do you automate that? And the way to automate it is to use AI, basically. You can assess that the response actually adheres to certain points, A, B, and C, and the points, this is what you validate. So what does this response convey as opposed to what the response is? So you validate like kind of on high level what was the point of the response as opposed to the actual response itself. So let's try to do that. To buy a Kindle. So it is super slow oftentimes. And basically here, like let's validate that it talks about the tablets and asks asks for help or suggests to provide help. All right. So let's do that exactly. So testRigor, to give context, testRigor has two levels, right? There is a level where you can express things in English, which is a parsed English, and we have basically we have this language documentation as a public code. You can see all of the commands in here, and specifically what we would be focusing on today are validations and specifically with AI-based validations here. I open it in a new tab. Anyway, so let's create a test case. And by the way, this is the example of test case that had been generated. For example, this AI to set the expectations might not do the good job. As you can see, it didn't add the validation properly. So we need to add the validation to make sure that it matches what we need to do, right? For example, check that page doesn't contain this Well, of course it will contain, but it is I would want to illustrate the point how you will fail the test. Anyway, so this is how you would modify the generated test cases, make sure they fail, and then follow this BDD process, give your failed test cases to engineers to make sure that whatever new test case is actually working. It's failing before and will work after. Anyway, so let's get to our feature of testing AI. Test chatbot response. So what do you want to do? We want to click on this button, which is, where I go, this tab also died. Okay, so if you hover over, you see the name of it, Best Buy Help. Best Buy Help. And then enter, oops. If you do that, it will ask our chatbot, enter, how do I buy Kindle, question mark, into chatbot, and then type enter. And here I know for the fact it will take them up to 1 minute sometimes to process it. For simplicity's sake, I'll just wait for a minute. It's of course not a best practice, but you can figure out how to do it better later. See, it's extremely slow. And voila, there's your different response. Okay, so what can we ask in such a way that will make sure that the chatbot does a good job? So, well, first of all, we can say, hey, this is chatbot response that it is here to help. Experts are there to help. So for that, like we get in this validation, copy the example, and not just positive message, but a message like how would you do that? Such sorting. Not confirming, but saying that experts will help. There's probably a better way to do it. This is one. And the second one, what else? We need to also make sure it asks the right questions. Let me know. Asks what we're shopping. Question. Contains a question that asks what type of product. About type of product. There we go. So those two things are probably what we care about. And we kick it off. And Virgo, by the way, this is a failure for the test case because we were asking it that to make sure that we don't have this text on the page, but we actually do. And engineers, if you want to build a feature, we can actually go ahead and make sure there is no such text. This is just an example. Of course, it's not real. Anyway, so voila. So we're tagging along in here. So this is where system enters the data, and then it will wait until AI will actually process it, and then it will run the validations on the response in the chat window. There is more features to that. It's all in the documentation. But point being is you can assess the certain results. Also, it will actually work for the validation for charts and diagrams um, and anything else graphical that you would otherwise only test manually, right? For example, if you can test that your graph actually is growing, or the chart contains like 30% the of something in a bar chart, and so on and so forth. And voila, as you can see, so the validation succeeded, and those statements are true. So it's important to write the statements that are cannot be misinterpreted. That's also true for humans as well. So you have to be extremely clear and not leave the any room for misinterpretation if you want your system to behave correctly. So you have to construct these statements for validation very carefully and make sure they are testing exactly what you need and not something else. Because if there is a chance of misinterpreting, there's a good chance AI will misinterpret it. So you have to be very careful. All right, so that's how to you test your AI features. And finally, the second feature, and we have very little time, apologies. I'll go very quickly, is integration with the TestRail. So we have our TestRail example system in here, and I have created a test suite, and it has some test cases already, and I'll show you how to set things up for import. You can import your manual test cases from TestRail and other test case management systems. And basically it will execute it for you. All right, so how do we do that? So you go to settings, integrations, and enable TestRail. And I have my credentials prepared in here, the web address in here, and so where, and then I'll show you where would you get these parameters, right? So this is your username and password. Web address is this URL, including this name that you have allocated for your TestRail instance. In general, it could be your URL, even if you're using it, let's say, on premise. That is also possible. The then there is a project ID and suite ID. The project ID, if you're going to overview, it says projects, and then this is this number. So we'll copy this number in there. That's our project ID. And then for the test suite ID, we will go to test suites, and I have created this one. We go to this test suite, and again, we look into the URL, and this is our ID for the test suite. I'll put it in here, then scroll down, save. There we go. Now go back to the test cases. And once you set everything up, you'll see a new button appear, import test cases from TestRail. If you click on that, you can import all or just select it. Let's do select it. It will pull up your test cases. You can say, hey, I want to do this. I want to override it. And click import. Yes, I want to import the test cases. It will start. It'll take a little bit of time to import. Let's give it a second. And looks like it is completed. So basically, this is a test case. You can see this is an example. This is the steps of what our test case here. It will open the steps. This is, as you can see, steps there. And maybe open it again in a new tab. Sorry about that. And now, once you have the test case, then you can retest it. And it will actually run your test case. You can select all the test cases to retest. You can retest the whole test suite and so on and so forth. And that is how it will work. And I'll show you in a second once it is executed, additional features related to stability. But I want to point out, if you have TestRail integration, there is a link to your test case in TestRail. You can click on it and see the test case in here, or you can change and link it to, you can change it and link it to another test case, and so on and so forth, or unlink it. And as you can see here, it basically super simple. And enter Kindle into search, type center, and then validates that result contact Kindle. Super simple. So now, to illustrate the stability and what I was talking about when I was talking about executing from a user's perspective, I'll show you how exactly the same test will run on eBay instead of Best Buy. So we say that, do rerun. Yes. I actually don't want to do rerun, so I cancel it for now. Go back, and I just want to run this one for just time's sake reason. And while it's doing that, I will be taking questions. So first, let me open up. There's a lot of Q&A. And questions in the chat. So first of all, if you have your questions, please type them into Q&A. This is what I will be going through. All right. So the one of the first question is, oh, we got blocked. Yep, this is the bot. Okay, let's give it one more chance. Okay, so one question I have seen is that would it work for mobile? Yes, it will work for mobile exactly the same way as for web example. The difference is you just upload your mobile application and it will work. So second, next question, would this work with any test automation tool such as Cypress or Playwright? Okay, let's get back to the basics. If you have test automation tool like Cypress or Playwright, you will drown in test maintenance. With Cypress and Playwright and Selenium, you are testing how engineers wrote the code as opposed to testing how system should function from end user's perspective. Yep, eBay is gone. Okay, let's give it a try with Amazon. Again, cancel test, just retest one. So we can help by basically importing. So there is a way for us, please contact us if you need that, but there is a very way for us to use Generative AI to convert your Selenium, Cypress, or Playwright tests into testRigor to solve the test maintenance problem and to allow you to achieve your test automation goals. So images can also be tested. Yes, as I mentioned, you can test images, and voila, this is how the same test ran on Amazon. So again, we entered Kindle into search, and then we validated that it succeeded. I'll show you the test case to remove doubts in here. So this is the first time it runs the same exact test case. This is on a Best Buy, and we were failing on eBay, unfortunately. But when we entered Amazon, this is exactly the same test case on Amazon. That's the point of test stability. If your tests can't do that, you probably is investing way too much time on test maintenance. You can test images, icons, and so on and so forth, and you can enable testRigor to automatically label icons using our models. So you can say things like click on card, click on search, and so on and so forth. And it will be clicking based on how things look as opposed to like what's the XPath or anything like that. In there, the can wait time be less than 1 minute? Yes, you can. You should not actually do that at all. This is not a good example. My bad. So we can basically do a better validation, and let's say let's wait for these to appear. That probably is not going to change. So, but we can Where is our? Oh, we need to switch back to Best Buy. Sorry about that. Again, so I don't want to run everything. The right way to do the wait would be to wait 1 second, I guess, and then wait second until page contains this. And that should just do wait until it is there and then proceed. That is a proper way to do it. You might not even probably even need that, but you can do this is a longer wait. Usually you don't need that. Usually it's just validation would and clicks and enters would work out of the box. TestRigor will wait like a human until stuff is in there before interacting. But unfortunately, um, it takes so much time for AI to respond in a Best Buy that it is just not enough. So that's why I added the wait. Anyway, so next question. Can this be integrated with X-ray? Yes, it is exactly same thing. So you can go to settings in here. And in integration section, we integrated with TestRail, but you can also do other test case management systems. This is X-ray, Zephyr, Azure DevOps, of course, is somewhere here where you go. It's all in there. So next, one more question I can see is, can we do data layer testing? So there are two ways. What do you mean by that? So if you talking about accessing your database, yes, you can access your database. It's all in the documentation. In here, and this is how you can configure your access and run test your data from end-to-end test case. If you're talking about data-driven testing and using test data, then it is also in there. So you can create data sets and or actually even upload your CSV into data sets and the basically run the same test case on every row in your data set. All right, so let's move on. I hope I'm loud enough now. Can TR be used to automate HMIs or handheld devices other than mobiles? I do not know what HMI stands for, but handheld devices, yes, sure. It depends, but most probably yes, as soon as it's based on Android and iOS. Please go ahead and set up time for us to chat. You can go to testRigor.com and request a demo, and you can write your request in there. And you will talk to the people and we will assess if it's possible or not. What about security? You're saying you can host on-prem as well. Correct. TestRigor is type 2 SOC 2 compliant. We take security extremely seriously. And uh, the most common way, even for a lot of banks that we serve, is to set up a tunnel into their VPN and through either our tunneling software or other means, and use that tunnel to access the specific private environments, or you can deploy testRigor on premise. It's just a little bit more expensive option, but yes, it is possible. We do have customers that do that, mostly in government. Uh, does testRigor supports Qt applications? Excellent questions. Yes, it does. Actually, we support Qt applications for mobile and for native desktop. Both of those. Great question. Is there any format that we would need to maintain the manual test cases so that they're legible to import into testRigor? Amazing question. Love it. No, the answer is no. There is no specific format, and let me show you why here. And there you go. So it was waiting until chatbot text is in there, and then proceeded with the validation. That's best practice. It actually took just 30 minutes for AI to respond, as opposed to 1 minute, which we had in a delay. But 32 seconds is longer than our default timeout of 30 seconds. So that's why we had to add this wait in here. The as you can see, the moment you start, you just started, it doesn't show anything here. Anyway, so let me show you what I mean that you do not need to have any specific format. Is that I don't know, finding a Kindle. I just do it in here and like find and select a Kindle. All right, absolutely free-flowing English. You can say not a Kindle, let's say a phone or whatever, doesn't matter. You can copy paste in here and let's say add it to shopping cart and all this kind of stuff. So when you import that, it will basically, like for import, it will automatically create it for you AI-based rules. Here, when I do it like this, it asks me, should I use AI? I'll say, yes, please. And basically what it will do is it, instead of taking name of the test case as a prompt, it will take specifically this as a prompt. And it will try to understand what is this about and figure out specific commands. And this is how testRigor works. The documentation that I showed you is for specific commands like click, enter, and such. And on top of that, you can have free-flowing English, and AI will figure out the steps that need to happen for free-flowing English. Great question. So can I only import one test suite? No, I just did specified one test suite in there, but it's an optional parameter. Where is this? I guess like if you go to integrations, you will see that this is optional. So if I remove that, then you'll have access to all of your test suites. I apologize for confusion, but you can use multiple test suites. There is no like affinity in there. Can testRigor be used for legacy applications like .NET? Yes, this is what testRigor is actually designed to help with. You can and probably should use it for .NET applications. all versions are supported out of the box. Can we also use this for visual regression testing? Yes, you can. It's a different feature in TestRigor. So if you go to the validations, then there is you can ask AI to check for um, like if there are any obvious UI issues, and it will report those. Or you can compare this screenshot to previous version with usually with certain allowance in there. So those kinds of visual testing are supported and built in. Um, However, you have to be careful with all of those. In where the test-trigger is mostly for functional testing. Next, how does it work with mobile apps? The exact same way. It's just you upload a APK file or iOS application. Test-trigger out of the box by default will use simulators and emulators, and we work with partners by default. It Lambda tests to run your application on physical devices. And yes, iPhone 15 is supported. Can you import test cases from Excel? You can, but you would need to copy paste them manually. So basically, you would be doing clicking on this button, add custom test case, and copy pasting each test case in there. For now, we are happy to start working with you to see if your format is generic enough, so we will support import from Excel files in there. Data layer, already talked about it. So how many number of possible test cases can it generate automatically? Can it generate complex test cases as well? Well, we limit the number of test cases to 200 per feature, because otherwise it would be extremely hard for you to review them, and AI right now is not on a level where what happened here. Okay, so that's a good example. So the thing is a little bit overshoot in here and stuff like that. Like sometimes you just cannot figure out what to do for certain prompts. You would need to give it a hint in there. But anyway, so to answer the question, the number of test cases is limited to 200 per feature, because you're supposed to review those. So this is how this generic, getting back to importing any test cases in any language, is how it worked. I did not like how add to cart work specifically. So I can uncheck it and prompt it to click add to cart. Voila. Save. And once we retest it, it should be fine now. So that's the how you address it. As you can see, it would do some of the things for you, but if you want to do, sometimes it will not do what you would expect it to, but it's not a problem because you can correct the behavior for the stuff which is not kind of out of the box base language like click and enter. TestRigor will create functions, and it will fill those functions with steps it thinks the system should work. If it's not what you would expect, you can correct the steps, no problem at all. And yes, it can generate any complex test cases, but the expectation should be it will not do 100% all the stuff for you. You would have to you would have to the correct most probably on every single test case. So probably do around maybe 30% of the work for you at this point. All right, as you can see, added to shopping cart, runs our correct deduction, and now it succeeds. It does exactly what we would expect in here. Next, I have test cases, test plans in Azure DevOps that we use to manually test user stories. Can we import them directly into TestRigor? The answer is yes, you can. It's exactly same thing. Where is the settings page? Okay, let me go to settings page here. And if you go to integrations, this is Azure DevOps right there on the top. As you can see, there's a lot of different ways to connect to your Azure DevOps in Azure or on premise. Like there's a lot of stuff in there, and you can use our DevOps for several things. You can report bugs in there, use it as issue tracker, and as test case management system, where in particular you can import test cases from Azure DevOps. Yes. Next question: does it work well with apps that do not have good identifiers? That exactly the problem that we solve for our customers. TestRigor does not use identifiers. It will use the same clues as a human would. For example, whatever looks like a label and how things are looking, if you're talking about the table and so on and so forth. So we allow you to avoid using any structure or identifiers in particular to build the test cases. Can you provide the steps to set up TestRigor? Well, we ran out of time, but it's very simple. If you go to testRigor.com, you can click sign up and follow the instructions to set up a trial. Like there are several options. This will begin as of today. It will be 300, not 99. And there is a public open source. However, whatever you do here is you cut tree-basing to public domain. If you use open source, we will use your test cases most probably to train our AI. They will be public. The videos of those test cases will be published online on YouTube, and then those links to those videos will be published on Twitter. So if you are okay with all of that and your test cases be open to everyone, visible, including the videos, then this is for you. It's really good for training. If you are a manual tester, you want to learn automation, this is actually a really good way to do it, and then show off your skills. If you are doing it for a private company for commercial purposes, that is not a good idea. But we do have the open source version. It's similar to if you would select open source on the GitHub. But point being is you go to TestRigor, click on sign up, you can get yourself a TestRigor version. It's very simple. The HMI human machine interface. Got it. Thank you for clarifying. Can I try before I purchase? Yes, you can. If you need to set up access to your private environments in your VPNs, please do contact us and we'll help it to do it for you for your free trial. Um, if I add username and password and as test data, is test data encrypted? Everything is encrypted and TestRigor, including test data. The default username and password are in the setting in authentication section. It is hidden in here. However, you can add more username and passwords, including the ones in test data sets. In test data, the way you do it is when you add a variable, you just mark it as hidden. Give it a name like this, and then whatever type also will be hidden. And of course, it is encrypted. Um, all right. With the help of this tool, can we do A11Y testing? Let me check what is this. Accessibility. Yes, you can. So the way you do it is you go to error reporting section. We have a way to AI assess issues on every page, and we have a way to run accessibility on every page. And you can basically say, yes, I want that. It will run and detect all accessibility issues which you then can manage in there. And in TestRigor, you can keep your test cases in your Git, and when you trigger your test cases, you can do it. There is the CI/CD section in here. This is pre-populated script, Bash and PowerShell for Microsoft technologies that will trigger it and fail if TestRigor fails. Is particular in here. There is a documentation on how to use this API. You can override the settings, so you can actually trigger the test cases by default without accessibility tests built in, or you can test trigger, let's say, once a week with accessibility testing turned on, because accessibility will just run a little bit slower. But yes, accessibility testing is built in out of the box for web and mobile. Can we get full tutorial uh, which are recordings to learn about TestRigor further? How do you learn about TestRigor? So there are several ways. If you go to testrigor.com, there is resources in here. There is a documentation that I have been showing you. There is also certification, which is doubling down as a tutorial for us. You very much encouraged to go through these sections. It explains how to use this trigger effectively, as well as introduces some basic terminology and such stuff like that. So it will help you to get from ground up to be able to become a proficient user with TestRigor, and you can then certify and get your certificate and install it on LinkedIn if you'd like. So that's definitely an excellent resource. And then, of course, there's a lot more, and there is also video tutorials in here, um, done by different people, where you can learn a bit more about TestRigor. As well as, of course, you can go to find TestRigor on YouTube and search for additional videos in there. Does the run report work? How does run report work in TR? Do we need to integrate the CI/CD for reporting? No, you do not need to. The reports are built in. Um, as you can see, like you can see what's going on in here. There is also breakdown by labels in here. There are errors. You can compare errors with previous test suite runs and see what's new, what's unchanged, what was fixed, and so on and so forth. So you can basically have a full view of what's going on with the issues of your tests. With the help like AY11 I've already replied. What's the cost per user per month? We do not charge per users. We have unlimited number of users included. We just charge per infrastructure to execute the tests. Full range of infrastructure, including iOS, Macs, desktop testing, web, mobile, and across all of those categories is 900 per prioritization per month. But there's much cheaper versions if you just need, let's say, Ubuntu Chrome available. So we will start from 300 as of today. And the last, can we do performance testing? And the answer is yes. There are a couple of ways how you can do it. As you have seen probably already, the testRigor by default measures how long does each step takes. Like for UI to stabilize in there. And on top of it, you can actually run it in load testing mode. And unfortunately, this feature is not yet available publicly, but you can contact us and we can help you to set up load testing for the same exact tests in there. All right, on that, I guess we are all done with the questions, and I will share this recording with you post factum. Thank you very much. Bye.